Corrigan Hammond. He's with the, I'm sure you've all heard of David Suzuki and the great work that he has done and his colleagues, I guess, throughout his career on the environmental aspects. And so Corrigan is with the David Suzuki Foundation campaign related to the Blue Dot.
Yeah.
And so what Corrigan is going to talk to us today is a bit about what the Blue Dot program is. The town of Aurora is, in fact, signed on to it, but I think Canada overall has not. So
we're working on it.
We're working on it. So with that, Corrigan, maybe you can give us a little introduction to the program and sort of what it's all about and the benefits to us and the environment.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Larry. So, I'm Corrigan Hammond. I'm the Ontario organizer for the Blue Dot movement. And this little guy here, Winston, he's the reason that I got involved in environmental activism. So, basically, I want him to have a livable planet, not just today, not just tomorrow, but in 5 years, in 25 years, in 50 years, in 100 years, so that his kids and his grandkids and his great-grandkids and so on can all enjoy the same beautiful planet that I grew up enjoying, and I think most of us in this room grew up enjoying. So what is Blue Dot? So in a nutshell, it's the David Suzuki Foundation's campaign advocating for a right to a healthy environment. And we believe at the foundation that all Canadians deserve to breathe fresh air. If you don't breathe fresh air, you've got about 60 seconds before you die, and if it's polluted air, you're going to get sick, and eventually it's going to have serious consequences. We believe that all Canadians deserve to drink clean water. And the same thing goes. If you don't have access to clean, safe water, you've got about 3 days before you die, and if it's polluted, you get sick and pretty horrible things happen. We think you need to enjoy safe food. And you've got about 3 weeks without safe, clean food, otherwise you die. And if you eat polluted food, you get sick, and you might not even have 3 weeks. We also think you need to enjoy a stable climate, because otherwise, what's the point of living on this planet if it's not inhabitable for future generations? So, the idea of right to a healthy environment is not a new idea. Around the world, 110 countries actually have, at the constitutional level or their equivalent, a right to a healthy environment. We're talking about some major countries around the world, countries like France, Germany, the Netherlands, South Korea. They have variations of right to a healthy environment protected at different levels, but Canada is actually one of the few countries that doesn't have a right to a healthy environment. And interestingly enough, it tends to be English-speaking former British colonies, Australia, the United States, the United Kingdom, that don't have this right at the constitutional level. So in the English-speaking world, we're kind of pioneering right now. And we actually did an event last year at Queen's Park, and I think this picture really sums up what we're working on. It's trying to create a beautiful living planet out of what is right now kind of an empty framework that we're trying to fill in. So, why are environmental rights so important? Well, the long and short of it is that the Conference Board of Canada currently ranks Canada 15th out of 17 OECD countries around the world based on environmental indicators. And one of the most horrifying statistics, it's really relevant in this area because the health minister comes in just a few minutes south of here, is we spend $100 billion per year on health consequences related to pollution. Health and injury from polluted environment. And, that's money that could be going to schools, it could be going to communities, it could be going to a lot of better things than paying for the health consequences of not having a safe environment that all Canadians can live in. So, 85% of Canadians, and we did some polling in 2014, agree that the right to a healthy environment should be included in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And then last year in Ontario, as part of our campaign advocating for strengthening of the Ontario Environmental Bill of Rights, we did some polling in November, and just 11% of Ontarians agree that our province currently has strong enough environmental laws. So there's 9% that think we have somewhat strong enough, and then the other 80% of the province thinks that we've got areas to improve. We've got lots of room to strengthen our regulations. So, kind of stepping back, so we know that the public's on board. We know that there's really negative health consequences if we don't have stronger environmental laws. But we know that 110 countries around the world have actually recognized the right to a healthy environment. So when Blue Dot began in 2014 with David Suzuki's Blue Dot Tour, we actually decided we wanted to bring towns and cities on board. We thought, if we're really lucky, in about 5 years, we can get a half dozen towns and cities across the country to pass Blue Dot declarations. Well, we didn't get a half dozen cities. We got 150 towns and cities across the country. We've got Richmond Hill, King Township, Aurora, Newmarket, East Willowbury, and Georgina have all passed declarations just in York region. And then in the province of Ontario, Toronto, Mississauga, Brampton, Hamilton, Ottawa, the 5 largest cities have all passed declarations, plus Kitchener, Waterloo, Windsor, most of the minor cities as well have done that. So about 15 million Canadians now live in Blue Dot municipalities that have passed declarations recognizing the residents' right to a healthy environment. And we've got 3 Blue Dot volunteers in the room, so give them a big round of applause for what they've done. So that's huge, getting 150 towns and cities on board, and the provinces are paying attention. So in 2016, the Ontario government actually listened to Blue Dot and opened up our existing, but in our opinion, incomplete environmental Bill of Rights for an historical review and update. And so what we said is we want, in the Ontario Environmental Bill of Rights, a recognition that Ontarians ought to have a right to a healthy environment and legal protections to do that. And so we ran a 120-day campaign last year around that, and 19,160 Ontarians, as part of that campaign, submitted comments to the province saying, hey, we want to have you recognize and protect our right to a healthy environment. And this is me and a few of our lawyers dropping off 7 boxes of petition signatures to the province a few months ago. We didn't bring the lawyers along to drop those signatures off. They had a meeting anyways, but it was just a really cool photo op, and I need some extra hands to move all of those extremely heavy boxes. And the really cool thing, and again, to our 3 Blue Dot volunteers in the room, 10% of the comments came from York region, which is really cool. It's a really great place, a lot of very environmentally minded people in this area, and lots of great work is going on. But it's not just Ontario that noticed the amount of declarations that we're getting. Last year, Manitoba, British Columbia, and Nova Scotia all put forward environmental bills of rights in the legislature. Now, 2 of these, in Manitoba and British Columbia, they've died because elections were called too soon for them to become law. But we still have high hopes that we can get those provinces back on track in the short term, and Nova Scotia looks like it's also going to die when the election's called in a couple months. But it's really cool things that are happening. Provinces are noticing, and there's lots of opportunities in the next couple of years. So momentum is growing. And based on that momentum, we've updated our plan to make sure that we can actually achieve our ultimate goal, which is joining that club of 110 countries around the world with the constitutional recognition of the right to a healthy environment. So we've got municipalities on board, provinces are coming on board, and now we're working on our federal government. And it's really opportune timing, because when the new government was elected in 2015, they said to us, we can't think about an environmental bill of rights or anything along those lines just yet, but come back to us in the spring of 2017. Well, if you check your calendars, it's the spring of 2017, and we had, in the last 10 days in Ontario, 2 very senior cabinet ministers met with Blue Dot volunteers, and the 3rd was supposed to meet with us last week, but she got the full rescheduled for next Friday. So we're making some serious gains. We've had about 30 volunteer-led meetings already across the country with MPs, and we're getting some really positive feedback. So this is just kind of saying our ultimate goal, because we know that constitutional amendments can take years to achieve, that we want a federal environmental bill of rights as a stopgap. And so there's some precedent to it. So when Canada actually got the Charter of Human Rights that we have, it began with a Bill of Environmental Rights, which was passed in the early 1960s. And so that bill created the momentum towards getting a charter, which has been replicated around the world and is kind of the gold standard constitution that countries have. In fact, our Charter of Rights and Freedoms is so good that when Australia wanted to get theirs, they copied and pasted ours. They just took it almost verbatim and replicated it in their country. So we think we can do the same thing down the road. So what is a federal environmental Bill of Rights? So quick show of hands, who here has ever heard of an environmental Bill of Rights? Okay, most of the people in this room. So essentially what we're asking for is a piece of legislation that will give Canadians greater access to information about harmful pollutants in their area, better participation in decision-making processes, and better access to courts. So essentially the tools to say, hey, we don't want this development that's going to have a negative impact on our health. We want to have a say in this decision, and we want to have the tools that empower people to actually control environmental outcomes. So the idea is that heroes, like the people in this room, can actually have a say and actually have influence in making those decisions. So one of the things you're going to notice on your chairs, I've got a volunteer interest survey, and that's the secret weapon that we're harnessing across the country. So last year it took 500 Blue Dot volunteers working diligently to collect 19,160 comments. In the last 4 years, 25,000 people across Canada have taken at least one action in the real world with Blue Dot, and it ranges in terms of activity. So sometimes people are just simply going out and doing cleanups and wearing Blue Dot t-shirts and helping to clean up their local environment. Some people are going out and meeting with cabinet ministers and local MPs. Some people are planning events, doing speaking. Essentially, we've got a role on the Blue Dot team for anybody based on any level of skill, experience. We can find a spot for you on the local team here in York Region. And I'm just going to quickly say, they're some of the most wonderful human beings that I know, so you should definitely try to get involved if you can. And so this is kind of coming towards the end of my presentation. I'll answer any questions in a minute, but I love this message that we got last year, and it kind of summarizes what we're doing. And it says, by preserving our environment now, we can improve quality of life in the future when I'm an adult. And it was written by a young child on one of our tables that we set up somewhere in the province. And these are just some photos of the York Region crew in action, going out to festivals, fairs, farmers markets, all sorts of local events, including this one. And before I answer any questions, on June 4th, we're doing an event at the Stouffville Museum here in York Region. It's part of a series of events that are going on across the country. We're going to be talking about how people have experienced environmental change in their communities, tying into the need for a federal environmental Bill of Rights, and live streaming it out across the country so that people from coast to coast to coast can actually watch it on Facebook and learn the stories and learn how they can plug in their own community. So I hope that everybody is able to attend, and information is going to be going out next week about the event we're doing here in York Region. So that's my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. And yeah, any questions anybody might have?
Can these get these online? Or do you have to do that now?
Yeah, you can get it online. I don't have the link on here.
But you just want to Blue Dot, okay.
Yeah, go to www.bluedot.ca, and there's a volunteer resource section.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where do you, in terms of volunteers that you're looking for, where do you want volunteers to focus, or where do you see your biggest need is to help continue to move this along?
In York Region, maybe Jen, what do you think our biggest need out here?
We're doing, so the June 4th event coming up, that is coming up really soon, and I think we'd love to have more people coming out and helping us organize that in the next couple of months. And then we're talking about what farmers markets and different local events we'd like to participate in. I know we've already got some booked in the Richmond Hill area, and we're looking to book more in Aurora Newmarket. So I personally find that to be a lot of fun, because it's just, you go out for a couple hours and talk to people in your community and get them to sign, and it's, you meet a lot of great people that way too, and have a lot of really interesting conversations. So
Yeah, it's fun.
it is, yeah.
And you can do your grocery shopping at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
So more an awareness of the program versus the requirements of the Bill of Rights or those sorts of things, or?
Yeah, and so raising public awareness is one of the things that we want to do because most Canadians don't actually know about right to a healthy environment, or they assume that we already have it. So it's really important that we go out and let people know, hey, we don't have this right, we can get this right, but we need your help to raise support, to collect petition signatures, to demonstrate to government that there's a lot of public support for it. And one of the most tangible things that comes out of the farmers markets is last year we were meeting with the ministerial staff at the Ministry of the Environment, and I said, well, you know, we've done surveys with volunteers after they go to farmers markets about how many conversations they actually have as far as, you know, conversations to comments submitted or petition signatures collected. And we had 15,000 conversations with ordinary Ontarians last year. And you should see the eyes of the ministerial staff or the politicians when they hear you had 15,000 conversations. They kind of go like this, they go, whoa, you had that many conversations. And that's a huge catalyst to action for them, where they suddenly take us much more seriously than if I'm, you know, some guy in a three-piece suit just sitting there reading some statistics off. So yeah, it's huge.
Any other questions for Corrigan?
So with the federal environmental bill of rights, what do you see as far as what will be key to happening over the summer and into the fall?
So the two big things is, first of all, we need volunteers meeting with their local politicians and telling the Blue Dot story person to person with those politicians. And the second thing is we need to keep going out and drumming up more momentum and more awareness of the work that we're doing. And the meetings that we've been having in Ontario have been absolutely incredible. It's been senior cabinet ministers saying, hey, this is really exciting, this is great work, this is something our government really wants to get behind. We need more information and just more awareness in the general public. And yeah, so between the farmers markets and the meetings with politicians, we think we can really drive this home and actually create some really amazing change.
So you're talking about sort of federal and provincial level politics. What about us as residents in Aurora and Aurora already being part of Blue Dot? So what can we do at, say, the municipal level to kind of help?
So we've got a brand new toolkit that's coming out for municipalities like the town of Aurora that have signed the Blue Dot Declaration, giving them access to tools and resources they can plug into in order to make sure that they're actually protecting environmental rights during the planning stages. So that's coming out, I think, at the end of May as part of the FC, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities convention in Ottawa. So that's going to be a great resource we can plug you guys in with, Larry. And then really as far as meetings go, city councilors have been great assets in helping us talk to provincial and federal politicians. But you know, everyone in Canada's got an MP, and we really encourage you to talk to us, download our resources, and go out and meet with your local MP this year.
Great. Any other questions? Well, I guess with that, thank you so much, Corrigan. Great presentation.